I thought of doing a Zoom. I thought of putting myself together, trying to look cute. And I'll show you a little bit of my outfit. On the top, I'm wearing a neckwear, necktie, okay? This cute little shirt, and I love the look of it. So for those of you who don't know, my channel is called Alter My Closet, and I do alterations and I make clothing as well, mostly for women. And I keep it simple, honestly, I keep it simple. I do get flustered if it's something that gets technical, and I do challenge myself sometimes, but for the most part, I just try to keep it simple. And I keep it to where, if I do make something, it's a one size fits most. So as far as getting into zippers and, maybe doing measurements and all that, because I'm not a factory or, it's not factory build, I don't get into the small, medium, large. I pretty much stay consistent with one size fits most. So I don't know if that makes sense to some people, that does so, but yeah. But yeah, just like I said, just wanted to start with thinking of my anniversary coming up, my 2-year anniversary on YouTube. And I wrote some things down. So I'm pretty much kind of like interviewing myself. I'm going to be asking the questions, and then I'm going to be, elaborating on those, answering the questions as best as possible. Because these are just some of the things that I, pretty much every day ask myself the whys, why am I doing, certain things, if it makes sense, right? And so I wanted to start with, I did celebrate my 100 subscriber last year. And I was saying, I know it doesn't seem like it's much, but for me it is something. So I wanted to celebrate my 100. Now I have 182 subscribers, and I wanted to celebrate each and every one of you all. And I was bold enough to go ahead and ask the question about getting 1,000 subscribers additional plus moving forward, just to grow the channel and to grow the community. So please like and subscribe to the channel. And now, they're talking about hyping the channel, because I do believe in what I do. I do want to see it grow. I don't want to stop doing it. Which brings me to like my first question. What made me wanted to start YouTube? Is that the right way to say it? What was my reason for starting YouTube? So my reasons for starting YouTube, at first, I remember doing some organizing around the home, and I wanted to capture it. And then I thought about doing a YouTube, and I asked a family member, of course I didn't get, what I was looking for as far as help. And so I did it myself. One day, sometime in April, it was right around my birthday time, I remember picking up the camera and doing it myself, and I could not upload the first video. And then I asked my daughter, and she did something, and it still did not go through. And I didn't get frustrated. I was very enthused about the whole thing. I just wanted to get it done. And so I kept on persisting. I tried Vimeo. I tried, other devices and other editing programs, and it still didn't work. And I remember doing a short, I think it was about maybe not even a minute long, just saying to bear with me, I'm trying to upload a video. And then finally I worked on it and then uploaded the video. And so I was so excited. So, for that reason, as far as being able to share what, I wanted to share whatever it, at the time, I was thinking it was out of my closet and I was doing the organizing, but I also wanted to share other things, more of a knowledge based kind of things. Like, this is how, I do this. If this can help someone else, right? And so that was my reason pretty much for starting the channel. I started also doing some, I know I was losing weight too, so I started doing some alterations on my clothing, and I also thought about capturing that. So during that time, I was thinking of setting up a workspace and being comfortable, because I believe that the best thing that I could have done is to set up a workspace instead of having to, scramble around and try to find somewhere to do a video or, do my alterations and stuff like that. So I posted some videos just showing some workspaces that I created, and I felt really good. I thought those would have gotten a lot of views. It brings me to the next point, like, trying to think of my reasoning for doing it. Maybe the fear of not wanting to post because people wouldn't watch it. I didn't have that fear. I really thought, honestly, that people would be watching my video and I would be getting a lot of views. I'd be getting growing numbers in subscribers and everything. So I started asking myself the question, like, why am I not getting a lot of views? And I don't know if this makes sense. I know, like, when you're watching videos yourself, as a creator, they ask about not skipping for the commercials and stuff like that. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. So my channel has been slow in growth and everything, so I don't know if what the algorithm, whatever they call it, the analytics, I don't know what goes on behind the scenes and why it's not growing. But I can just keep on doing what I'm doing in the hope of my channel growing, because I guess the next question is, my thing would be to request and ask people to subscribe to the channel, but I don't meet that many people, so I was just expecting the world to just embrace my videos and just to watch it, enjoy it, like and subscribe, and I'm still hoping that that will happen. So my next question would be, right, well, not really a question, but just to say, I'm doing what I love to do. And so in the interim, if I do get paid for what I love to do, then, that is a plus, right? So, I love to sew. I've been sewing since I was 8 years old. I remember going on my parents' sewing machine, and I would, play around with it, started sewing material, fabric and all that. And as a teenager, I was making a lot of my clothing. I was making clothes for my brothers. I remember making not a lot, but some for my friends as well. But mostly for myself and my brothers. Like holiday time, I would be sewing, new things, and yeah, we would be wearing them, styling them, and getting compliments too. So when I came to the States, migrated to the States, I just stopped sewing, didn't break out a sewing machine, even though I thought about going to the fashion school in New York, but it was not a serious thought. It was just a what if kind of thought, you know? And so I didn't pick that up, but I did at some point uh started shopping at Mood Fabric in New York, on I think it's 38th Street in New York. So I remember shopping there because I had a cousin. Her name is Jennifer as well. Lives in New York still, and she and I and another friend used to go and shop at Mood and buy fabric because she used to take her clothing to get them professionally made back then, and so yeah, that's what we used to do. I do have a video showing some of the pieces that I did sew, and my mom helped me with some of them as well. So making some things, I still have them today. So they are over 20 years old, and I'm still wearing them. Yes, I did do some restoration on on them and all that. So that's something that I did later on, after moving to New York, just to have. It was nice having those pieces because they were unusual. You couldn't find them in the store because, of course, you got them custom made. So those were not in the stores, and that was a nice thing. So yeah, I enjoyed doing that. And yeah, my next thing I wanted to move on to is about making videos. So when I started off, like making videos, like I said, I was having challenges. I was being challenged with devices, just out of storage sometimes, things like that, and that was so frustrating. So at one point I stopped, I took a break because I kind of I needed, help. I didn't know what I was doing. As I knew what I had to do, but it was just so time consuming, and then I thought about it. I said, I am not getting paid. I'm spending time. It takes a lot of time to record and edit, and I'm kind of like I think I want to see my video looking tasteful, so I try to do the best that I can. If I catch something not looking the way I want it to, I'll spend that time, to fix it, to correct it. So yeah, I did have that challenge, with the videos and all that. But yeah, and I never had a problem like with what content to bring, because it's always something to do, and I'll get to the point where, I just can't go to sleep. I'm writing down stuff when it comes to mind, because even with my, video here, some of the things I didn't write down, and I'm like, oh gosh, I wish I did, because now I forgot what I was gonna, elaborate on when I asked certain questions. But for the most part, like I said, I don't think I can run out of videos. I always have some kind of project that I want to do and put it on in video format. So that's something that I am happy about. My other thing is being myself. So I know there are a lot of videos out there that talks about so many different things, and at some point I do compare myself, and like, what is that person doing that I'm not doing, and they're getting 50,000 views and I'm getting 5 views. What is it that I'm doing, So I'm trying to compare myself, thinking, oh, should I do what they do? Which, I know that's the industry, if you want to call it that, that's the whole thing about it, so I try to be authentic. I just feel like if I compare myself and do something that someone else is doing, I'm not being myself, and I want to be myself. Now, is that gonna make my channel grow? I don't know. I don't know, but I'm willing to give it a shot. I'm willing to be myself. I'm willing to do my own content and thing like that, and be original, and hoping that it will be embraced, because when you really think about it, one person started a trend, right? And someone else run with it, and then, it became viral. So if I can start a trend, in what I'm doing, at some point, I'm really believing that it will be a trend, and it will continue to grow and be viral one day. So I really truly believe that. I want to be a trend setter. I want to be authentic. I want to be myself, in the hopes that, it will go viral, right? My next thing is, I was a very shy, very quiet, reserved person. I would break out if I'm used to you, and if I'm around family and all that. But for the most part, I'll talk and smile and stuff like that. But I'm not a person of many words. And if I'm not talking, it's not that I don't like you, or I'm sad, or whatever the case is. It's just that I really don't have much to say. I will listen, and for the most part, I love to listen, and I love to laugh, so I'm gonna find comedy in most things, because that's just me. I'm a very happy, jovial kind of person. So I really had to overcome the fear of being in front of the camera. But it brings me to my next thing of overcoming my fear. In order to overcome my fear, there had to be something else that, would have propelled me to do that. And that was the passion that I have to share. I have a passion to share. And so that passion helped me to overcome the fear of making videos, of being in front of a camera. I remember taking pictures, and I used to, just shy away. I remember, even with my teeth looking messed up, I remember laughing and putting my hand, over my mouth like this. And yeah. So I really had to overcome that fear. At some point, especially going into my 60s, I'm getting to the point where I've got life, I've got God, I've got a heart to love, I've got a heart to communicate, and I just have to understand that it doesn't matter what I look like, but within reason, because like right now I put myself together and I try to make sure I look decent, but as far as the other cosmetic things that I can't fix, or I'm gonna just be me. I'm gonna be me. I'm gonna do the best that I can. Yes, I do look back at my videos and I laugh when I see like my teeth, how they look, and my nose, I remember one friend used to tell me that my nose one friend used to tell me that my nose was so broad that a fly would get tired, like meeting halfway in between. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So, I got to the point where I started looking at myself. But you are your worst critique. Maybe some people don't see what I see when I look at myself, But I just really am grateful and thank God that I do have life and I have a breath in my body. And I'm thinking of, doing what I would like to do, and not letting what I see as hindrance stop me, So I just wanted to share that, because I did speak with someone asking them if they had a YouTube channel, and they were like, no, I can't go in front of the camera, I'm too this, and I'm conscious of this. And you should have heard me motivating this person. And this wasn't me, like in the past, right? I would be like, girl, me too. But that was not the case. My whole thing was, no, don't let that stop you. If it's something you really want to do, don't let it stop you. But that was really important for me to be able to let someone know, if you have the information to share, and this is something that you have the passion for, go ahead and do it. So yeah. My other thing was fearing what people might say. Yeah. uh I don't care. I don't care now. One time maybe, like I used to think of, man, I wonder what, my family is saying, or, my friends looking at me, and, what? Yeah, we get stuck on thoughts sometimes, but we've got to look at the bigger picture and see that this is a way of the world. It's so technologically inclined right now. If it's a thought that comes to mind, and we want to do it, we should just do the best that we can and do it. So I'm just thankful that I am doing the best that I can to share what I love to share. What's the next thing? Expectations of having a YouTube channel. So my expectation of having the channel is to share. It just boils back down to it, is to, when I first started, it was really to share. And like I said, if I can share and this can grow, because right now, YouTube is called YouTube University. It's a business for a lot of people. I do watch, because I started watching YouTube during the pandemic time. I became more about YouTube because I was watching this one lady that started she was 64 years old, called Lulu, from Lulu's Way, a van lifer. I started watching her, and others start popping up on my feed. So I was watching these nomadic life, people living their life, nomads living their lives, and they're watching. I was looking like, I want to be on YouTube too, and so that really motivated me. And so my expectation really was to share my content, and in the interim, realizing that if it's something that I can get paid for, then I will truly be appreciative of that, because I think the best thing in life is to do what you love, enjoy what you love, and getting rewarded for what you love to do. I just think that it all comes together. When I look back at how God has blessed my hands to be able to give me the gifts that He has given me, I don't want to sit on it. I don't want to just take it for granted and just sit on it like I did all these years. My parents were in the garment business, and that's what they did for a livelihood. And honestly, I didn't think of using that as a source of income for me. But yeah, that kind of hit me. You know and I just want to take it and run with it. That's kind of like what I put together for right now. I don't want this to be too lengthy, but I wanted to leave the scripture and to encourage someone. Luke 1:37, it says, "For nothing would be impossible with God." So, like I said, just want to encourage someone. If this has been an encouragement to you or a blessing to you, all the nuggets that I put together to make up this content here, hopefully it will resonate, and help someone, and an encouragement to me as well. Yeah. But guys, thank you so much for joining in. And if I think of anything else, but please also, I'm coming up to my second year, like I said. Show some love, please show some support. And I'm gonna end it here. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching, and thank you all to my amazing supporters and subscribers. I would love to see some more comments too. Okay, so keep it coming.